Hi, this is Roman, and today we'll be going over Unit 7 on circles. Day 21, a new way to measure angles, Part 1. What is a radian? Why have a new way to measure angles? And why not just continue to use degrees? So today, what I'd like to share would be on slide 13 with respect to the exploration portion of this lesson. A great applet was added for the use of investigating the idea of a radian for the first time for students. And within this applet, students also get to see the radius and the arc length. And let's just take a look at it here. So as we click and it loads, we'll see that students can play around with this applet, and as they come to these pink points, they'll see the length of about 1 radian, where it says that in green, as I manipulated this. And I can continue moving this until I get approximately 2 radians. And I see the arc length and the radius, and then I can also click to see the ratio of the arc length compared to the radius. And I could see the radians down here as well as in green. And here's one of the key ideas that we'll be looking into going forward. As I touch R here, or point R, I see I'm at 3 radians. And then if I keep going close to 3.14, I should see that I'm at about 180 degrees, or half of that circle. And that's a comparison that could be drawn from students. So what I'd like to share in this video are a few writing activities that could capture that exploration that students are going to go through in this lesson using this applet, and that could be used as a teacher to facilitate discourse. So the first thing that I'd like to mention is that these writing activities align with Math Practice 1 to make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. A few highlights with respect to these activities. Students are going to start by explaining to themselves the meaning of a problem, looking for entry points into a solution, and also they'll be looking to explain correspondences, specifically with respect to math, between equations, verbal descriptions, tables, graphs, or draw diagrams of important features and relationships, graph data, or search regularity of trends. So those are a few highlights. The first activity is to give students the answer, and again, they would be using the applet within this writing activity. So I'm giving them the answer of 180 over pi, and you would have students create the question. One important thing about the instructions to this writing activity is that there could only be one possible answer. So the question that's being asked or formulated by students can only possibly produce this one answer. The question can't have multiple different answers. And that is the rigorous part of this activity. One other facet that this could be used for is test preparation. So if we're going into this topic, or any other topic for that matter, if you give students a bunch of solutions to multiple choice questions on a Regents exam, and then have them create the questions, a great activity I found would then be to give the actual questions that were asked on the Regents and have students compare and contrast their questions compared to the questions that were actually asked. And there's going to be a lot of similarities, and it's great for students to make sense of structure. And in this case, students can really make sense of the structure of what a radian is with different answers. It doesn't just have to be 180 over pi. We could have had an answer as 1 radian and see what students come up with. I've done this with a class, and I've seen students start mentioning that it's a conversion rate between radians and degrees, which I found very interesting without ever priorly being told that. Another activity, which is a variation of this while using the applet, would be for students to create questions and then write the answer to the question that they created. This is a great activity for student-to-student discourse. So after you have students create their questions and write their solutions, you could pair students up in groups of 2 or in groups of 4, and then have students ask their questions to peers, and then justify what they believe their answer is, and have that student-to-student discourse flow. And you could monitor that possibly in breakout rooms as students begin those discussions. So the last activity that could be used as a writing activity would be a variation of a noticing and wondering activity. And here I have one of the ideas that was discussed, I believe, in slide 14. So really comparing the 180 degree angle, and in this case I think I have the 180 degree angle in radians versus, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, versus having 3 radians, which is a little bit less than that. So in this variation of the noticing and wondering activity, you're really limiting students to 2 noticings and 2 wonderings, and based on their investigation in the applet, they would generate these 2 noticings in the form of statements and then 2 wonderings in the form of questions. You may use a vocabulary word bank with words like radius, arc length, radians. That closes it off to students. If you want to have it more open, I would remove the use of the vocabulary word bank. And I know I'm going to remove it and have it be more open in this case. So as students create these statements in the form of, these noticings in the form of statements and wonderings in the form of questions, we're cultivating a capacity to notice and wonder. And one more hint that I think would be great in facilitating is pushing for a wondering that we may not be able to answer, and really have students dive deep into the investigation of content. So these were a few writing activities that can be used to capture the exploration of the lesson, and then use all that information that students have generated in these writing activities to facilitate discourse within a lesson.